Hi, I'm Tommy, 34, and last Tuesday at 11:02 p.m. I found out my family was planning to break into my apartment and leave 4 kids inside for 2 weeks, while I was flying international red ice. I just dropped into bed, still wearing one shoe, when my phone buzzed. I picked it up expecting flight updates or a gate change. Instead, it was my sister. 11:02 at night. Your apartment's closer to the airport. Dropping off the kids for 2 weeks. Luke surprised me with Bora Bora. No, hi. No, please. Just a heads up that my 1-bedroom was about to be converted into a daycare. I blinked. Once. Twice. I wrote back. I'm not home. She replied instantly. Mom has your spare key. She's letting us in. That was it. No question mark. No, is that okay? Just a full-on announcement of invasion. I sat there in the dark staring at those words like they were a TSA threat alert. Let me back up. I'm a commercial pilot. You've probably seen guys like me walking through terminals, flight bag in hand, tired eyes, pretending we know which time zone we're in. I love flying. I worked my ass off to get here. First in my family to finish college. Trained like a lunatic through my 20s. Bounced between crash pads and cheap apartments. Sacrificed holidays, weddings, and sleep. But none of that matters to my family. To them, I'm the rich one. Not the tired one. Not the one who works 60-hour weeks in the sky. Just the one with a nice job and no kids. Translation: free time and disposable income. My sister, Amy, is 31. 4 kids under 10. Husband named Luke, who once described his job as flipping coins on the blockchain. I wish I was kidding. Amy's talent is turning anything into an emergency, that's my problem. Luke's talent is disappearing during those emergencies. And then there's my mom. Facebook famous for posting long rants about selfless motherhood and the pain of being unappreciated. My dad mostly reads his iPad and lets her do the talking for both of them. My mom's favorite phrase? Family helps family. Which always means I help them. Amy's rent? My problem. Kids need school uniforms? I'll Venmo it. Car breaks down? Here comes another guilt-ridden group chat. But this was a whole new altitude of audacity. I reread her message. Mom has your spare key. She's letting us in. They hadn't even asked? They just decided. That sentence echoed through my head. Not can we use your place, not is it okay, but we already made the plan. Like my apartment was a hotel suite they prepaid. Like I wasn't the one sleeping in it, paying for it, barely surviving in it between 20-hour shifts. And the spare key? I'd given that to my mom years ago, for emergencies. As in, I fell in the shower and can't move. Not, Bora Bora's calling and Luke bought drinks with crypto. I felt something click inside me. It wasn't rage. It was colder. Sharper. For once, I didn't start doing the mental gymnastics. Didn't think maybe I can make this work, didn't start Googling how to kid-proof a studio apartment. I just acted. I picked up my phone again, scrolled to the building's front desk. Hey, it's Tommy in 18C. I said. I need to change my locks. First thing in the morning? The voice on the other end paused. Everything okay, Mr. Ramirez? Not yet, I said. But it will be. I explained the situation fast. That under no circumstances was anyone to be let into my unit without me physically present. Not my mom. Not my sister. Not a crying child with a post-it from Aunt Amy. The guy, Miguel, was silent for a moment. Then he said, We see that a lot, actually. I'll add the note. Maintenance will be there at 8 a.m. I thanked him and hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From something else. Power. For the first time in a decade, I'd drawn a line. And by the next morning, it would be locked in place. At 7:58 a.m., I stood inside my apartment clutching a mug of stale coffee, staring at the front door like it was about to be stormed. Maintenance showed up right on time, toolbox in hand, cheerful like this was just another Tuesday. He had no idea he was participating in a family war. 30 minutes later, my lock was new, the spare keys were in my hands only, and Miguel at the front desk had been briefed again. Nobody upstairs without my say-so. Period. At 10:32 a.m., the siege began. I'd just gotten back from grabbing breakfast downstairs when the elevator doors opened, and there they were. Amy. Look. My mom. 4 kids. 6 suitcases. 1 stroller. A booster seat. And the expression of a woman who had not received the memo that her ambush had failed. Miguel looked up from the front desk and gave me that subtle raised eyebrow warning. They'd been down here for 10 minutes already. Arguing. Loudly. Amy turned first. Her jaw dropped. You changed the locks? I stopped mid-step. Yep. Luke winced like he was being held hostage by marriage. Mom spun around so fast her purse nearly clocked the youngest kid. This is petty, Tommy. You knew they were coming. I knew you decided they were coming, I said calmly. That's not the same thing. Amy stepped forward, her phone clutched in one hand like a grenade. You can't seriously be doing this in front of the kids. You brought the kids into this, I said. I didn't agree to 2 weeks of childcare. I didn't even get asked. You're single, she snapped. You live alone. Your job is to sit on planes and press autopilot. You don't need your apartment for anything important. I actually laughed. Miguel coughed into his hand. You do realize I won't even be in town for half of these 2 weeks, right? I said. You were planning to leave your kids in an apartment with no adult present. It's not a big deal, Amy said. The older 2 can handle things during the day. You just needed to check in on them at night. My mom stepped forward. Do you have any idea what this trip means for Amy and Luke? They never get anything for themselves. This was a gift. Then return it, I said. Her face cracked like a windshield. Amy's eyes went glossy with fury. We told the kids they were staying with you. You mean you lied to your kids? I corrected. Not my fault. Luke finally spoke up. Bro, they're already packed. We checked out of the Airbnb. We can't take them with us. Should have figured that out before you booked non-refundable flights, I said. Silence. A toddler started crying. The baby's diaper reeked. My mom glared at me like I'd personally pushed Jesus off the cross. You are humiliating your family in front of strangers, she hissed. I turned to Miguel. Can you please confirm they're not on my guest list? Miguel nodded, completely unfazed. That's correct. Only approved visitors may go upstairs. Amy looked like she might burst into flames. You're putting your career above your family. No, I said. I'm putting my boundaries above your entitlement. Mom's voice rose an octave. Your father is going to hear about this. I hope he does, I said, pulling out my phone. Maybe I'll show him this too. I opened my banking app. Turned the screen toward them. That's every transfer to Amy in the last 5 years. Rent. Credit cards. The first van. School supplies. Christmas gifts. Disney flights. You've treated me like a credit union that doesn't charge interest. Amy scoffed. So what? You want a thank you card? No, I said. I want out. Miguel gave a subtle nod like he was watching the finale of a really good courtroom drama. Amy stood there, vibrating. You're choosing money over family. I glanced at the kids. One was slumped on a suitcase, the other picking dried cereal out of her hoodie pocket. I'm choosing my peace, I said. And reminding you that you are their parents. Not me. My mom's voice cracked. You're dead to me. I nodded. Okay. And just like that, they stormed out. 6 suitcases. 4 confused kids. A trail of crushed goldfish crackers. No spare key. No backup plan. Just silence. And I stood there, in that quiet marble lobby, finally breathing my own air. That night, I waited for the fallout. I expected fire. I expected guilt-tripping texts. I expected a voicemail of my mom sobbing so loudly I could hear it through the screen before pressing play. What I didn't expect was Instagram. At 3:14 p.m., exactly 4 hours after the lobby ambush, Amy posted a photo of herself on a white sand beach. She wore oversized sunglasses and a bikini she definitely did not pay for. Her caption? Finally taking time for us. #blessed, #family first, #deserved. And the location tag? Bora Bora. I stared at the screen, slack-jawed. The kids? Tagged at Grandma and Grandpa's. So much for no backup plan. So much for we have to leave them with you. Apparently, the family that was furious with me found a way to pivot fast. probably within seconds of dragging those bags back to the car. I laughed. Out loud. Not because it was funny, but because of how freaking predictable it was. My mom texted a few hours later. You humiliated us. Your father is furious. The kids are confused. I hope your empty apartment keeps you warm at night. No apology. No. We figured something out. Just shame and heat disguised as moral high ground. I read it once, twice, and then calmly switched my phone to Do Not Disturb. No follow-ups. No rebuttal. No guilt spiral. The next day was the first day I'd had off in over a week, and for the first time in years, nobody asked me for anything. No. Can you spot me till payday? No, we're out of formula. No, any hotel points you're not using? Just silence. And it felt weird. Heavy at first. Like I'd left the oven on in another life. But then? It felt like freedom. I slept in. Ate real food. Took a walk without checking my phone. Didn't flinch when the screen lit up. Even started reading again, an actual book, with pages. Not a PDF of flight logs. I went for a massage. First time in years. The receptionist told me the price, and my brain did that automatic math thing. That's a week of groceries for Amy. That's a copay for the pediatrician. That's 3 birthday presents for the kids. Then I stopped. Because it wasn't. It was a 90-minute massage for my body, from my job and my time. So I smiled and handed her my card. Afterward, my shoulders felt lighter. But so did something else. Something in my chest. The smear campaign didn't take long to kick in. I got a DM from a cousin I hadn't heard from in years. Hey, what happened with your mom? She posted something kind of vague. I checked Facebook. Sure enough, my mom had gone full martyr mode. Some of us give everything for our children and receive nothing but cruelty in return. Imagine raising a son who values money over his own family. Pray for my heart. No name, but I didn't need one. The post had 312 likes, 48 comments, and a dozen "You're such a good mom" replies. I stared at it for a while, heart pounding. My thumb hovered over the comment button. I had receipts. Transfers, flight confirmations, screenshots of texts. I could post a 37-slide rebuttal and nuke her pity party in seconds. But I didn't. I closed the app. Because flying teaches you a lot about storms. You can't control them. Only your response. Over the next week, the silence settled deeper. And something strange happened. People started to notice. It started with my Aunt Denise. My mom's older sister. The one who always wore a gold cross the size of a dinner plate, and told stories that started with, "I shouldn't say this, but..." She called me on a Tuesday night, whispering like we were plotting a jewel heist. "Tommy, I heard what happened." I waited for the judgment, the scolding, the inevitable. "But their family." Instead, she said, "Good for you." That threw me. She went on, voice hushed but firm. "Your mom made it sound like you left 4 kids on a sidewalk. But then she let it slip she and your father took them anyway." I blinked. She admitted that? Not directly. But you know your mother. When she wants sympathy, the truth gets flexible. I pinched the bridge of my nose. "I'm not trying to start a war, Aunt Denise." "You didn't," she said. "You ended one. And for what it's worth, I wish I'd done it sooner with my own kids. That stopped me. I've been slipping money to my middle son for years," she confessed. "Every time I say no, he guilt trips me." "You saying no to your mom?" It made me think maybe I'm allowed to stop, too. I didn't know what to say. We ended the call lighter than we started it. After that, little cracks started forming in the armor of family silence. A cousin liked one of my photos on Instagram for the first time in months. Another one texted me, "You good?" with zero context, but it was something. Then I did something I'd been meaning to do for 5 years. I started therapy. Found a therapist who worked online, could fit in between flights and time zones. I told her everything in the first session: the spare key, the lobby ambush, the fake emergency, the Bora Bora Instagram. She didn't blink. Just leaned back and said, "You know this is parentification, right?" I frowned. "Isn't that just being the oldest?" "No," she said. "That's being exploited. They treated you like a third parent and an unlimited bank account." Hearing it out loud felt like being handed a word for a pain I hadn't realized had a diagnosis. Parentification. Financial abuse. Boundary erosion. Big clinical terms that made my chest feel less crazy. We talked about guilt, about learned obligation, about how family helps family becomes code for you owe us indefinitely. Back home, I started cleaning house, digitally and financially. I canceled the automatic transfer I'd been sending Amy every month, just in case. I closed the emergency credit card my mom had access to. I called the lawyer who'd helped me write my will a few years back, at my mom's urging, no less, and removed my parents as beneficiaries. Replaced them with a charity and a few friends. It felt brutal. But it also felt like finally locking a door that had been swinging open my entire life. And you know what happened? Nothing exploded. Nobody died. The world didn't end. In fact, for the first time in years, my savings account didn't look like it was holding its breath. Then came the trip. I booked it on a whim. 3 days off in a row? Rare. So I took them. No uniform. No flight log. No airport hotel. Just me, my own suitcase, and a quiet resort on the coast where nobody knew my name or needed anything from me. Standing in the boarding line as a passenger felt weird. Like I was stealing someone else's life. I kept waiting for a kid to burst in crying or a call from Amy asking for car seat money. But it didn't come. All that came was peace. Ocean sounds. Sunburn. A long nap in a hammock. And the overwhelming realization that I'd spent years flying other people to their vacations while never taking one for myself. And now I finally was. On my dime. On my time. For me. I got back from that trip feeling strange. Relaxed, yes. But also slightly disoriented, like I'd time-traveled into a version of my life where no one expected anything from me. A parallel universe where Tommy wasn't the built-in support beam of the family house. Back in my apartment, everything was quiet. No text from Amy asking me to Venmo her for swim lessons. No emails from Mom reminding me the water bill was due. And wouldn't it be easier if you just handled it this month? The only message waiting for me? A voicemail from my dad. Which almost made me drop my keys. He never calls. Like ever. If you gave him a rotary phone in 10 hours, he'd still find a way to avoid dialing. But there it was, time-stamped while I was somewhere in the clouds over Denver. Hey. It's Dad. Just wanted to talk. Call me back. Nothing else. No instructions. No guilt. Just 5 seconds of awkward throat clearing. So I called him. He picked up on the first ring. You know your mother's upset. There it was. The opener. I didn't respond. Just let him talk. She says you humiliated her. And Amy. And the kids. Still, I stayed quiet. Then he sighed. A deep, world-weary sigh that somehow made the phone heavier in my hand. I also know how much you've helped them, he said. I've seen the transfers. The flights. I saw the bank statement Amy left out once. Your name was all over it. That shut me up. I couldn't remember the last time he acknowledged any of it. I'd started assuming he just didn't notice. Or didn't care. I should have said something sooner, he added. That's on me. I sat on the armrest of my couch and stared out the window at the city below, blinking harder than I wanted to admit. I didn't expect you to say that, I finally said. I didn't expect either, he said. But seeing you stand your ground, it made me realize something. What's that? They never gave you permission to stop being the helper. So you took it for yourself. That's not selfish. That's overdue. I leaned my head back. Thanks. It wasn't a full apology. Not a confession of guilt or a roadmap to healing. But it was the first time in my life my dad talked to me like I wasn't just some extra pair of hands keeping the family machine running. Before we hung up, he said, I hope you're taking care of yourself up there. I am, I said. And for the first time in years I meant it. The next few months were quiet. Amy didn't reach out. My mom made one more Facebook post about how some sons lose their way chasing money. And someone in the comments mentioned prodigal sons. I didn't engage. Instead, I kept going to therapy. I kept flying. I kept noticing how much lighter my life felt without being strapped to a parachute full of everyone else's emergencies. And slowly, something shifted. They stopped calling. Not because they didn't want things. but because, for the first time in their lives, they realized asking didn't guarantee receiving. They started handling things on their own. Which is how, 6 months later, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen since Bora Bora. Amy. I stared at her name on the screen like it might morph into something else. Amy. No subject line. No string of texts. Just her name and one word. Hey. Part of me wanted to ignore it. I'd been so careful. No calls, no transfers, no replies to vague. Hope you're doing okay. Guilt probes from mutual relatives. But something about that lone message, it didn't have the usual tone. There was no exclamation mark. No manipulative emoji. No. Hey big brother. Charm offensive. Just. Hey. So I waited. A few minutes later, another message came. I'm not asking for money. I actually laughed out loud. It was like she knew how hard my stomach clenched when her name appeared. I just wanted to say, we found a sitter. We budgeted. It sucked, but we did it. I sat down. Amy budgeting? Amy planning childcare without assuming I'd jump in like a golden retriever with a checkbook? I didn't reply. Not yet. I waited to see if she'd push for something. If this was the setup to a classic bait and ask. But then came this. I shouldn't have tried to dump the kids on you like that. Luke said if anyone pulled that on us, we'd lose our minds. I think we just panicked. Wanted to escape and assumed you'd catch us. That hit different. I wasn't used to Amy admitting fault. Usually, if she messed up, it became my fault 5 seconds later. But this was real. No frilly apology. No grand emotional performance. Just a quiet acknowledgement that she'd been wrong. I texted back. I'm glad you figured it out. You're their parents. You'll find a way. She replied with a thumbs up. Not the emoji. Just the words. Thumbs up. And then, nothing else. No. Let's get lunch. No. Can you watch them next weekend? No veiled attempt to reset the same old patterns. Just a single moment of honesty and silence. We didn't become best friends again. We didn't rebuild our childhood bond over coffee and catharsis. But things leveled. The temperature dropped. The air between us felt clearer. And I realized something huge. Me saying no didn't ruin them. It forced them to grow. They got a sitter. They paid for it. They parented their own kids. Which meant, maybe all that chaos I was absorbing for years wasn't unavoidable. It was just easier. For them. Because I made it easy. And once I didn't, they managed. That floored me more than the Bora Bora trip. Later that week, I went out for drinks with a buddy from my flight crew, a guy who once told me I was too nice to survive this long. He asked me what had changed. I told him about Amy. The boundaries. The locks. He clinked his glass against mine and said, "You finally stopped flying coach in your own life." That stuck with me. So I got home, stood in the doorway of my apartment, the one that was finally mine, no spare key in circulation, and I did something symbolic. I bought a new welcome mat. It said simply, "Not today." A few weeks after Amy's message, I was on a layover in Seattle when I passed one of those cheesy airport gift shops, the kind with overpriced mugs and novelty socks, and something made me stop. There was a tiny baby onesie hanging on a rack that read, "My uncle flies planes but still can't change a diaper." I stood there, holding it, laughing to myself. Because that used to be me. I was the diaper guy. The homework helper. The substitute dad when Luke needed a break. And Amy needed space. I used to look at stuff like that and feel trapped. Now, I felt detached. Still an uncle, sure. But one who finally had boundaries printed on his flight manifest. I didn't buy the onesie. I did snap a photo and text it to Amy, though. Flashbacks? She replied 5 minutes later with, "I'd like to formally apologize to every diaper you had to change without warning." I snorted. It was progress. That trip, I felt different. Lighter in the uniform. I wasn't dragging the invisible weight of my family through TSA anymore. I flew the plane. I landed. I slept. I didn't scroll through panic texts about broken water heaters or bounce checks. When I got home, my mailbox had something waiting. A card. From my dad. No return address. Just my name on the front, written in his familiar slanted handwriting. The kind he uses for crossword puzzles and passive-aggressive notes about milk going bad. Inside 3 sentences. Tommy, I know I haven't always spoken up when I should have. You've done more than any brother, or son, should be expected to do. I hope someday your mother sees that too. No. Love, Dad. No signature. Just that. I sat on the couch holding the card like it might disappear. I don't know what surprised me more, that he sent it, or that he meant it. I never replied. I didn't need to. Sometimes words land best when they're left alone. A few days later, I got a call from HR at the airline. Nothing bad. In fact, the opposite. Hey Tommy, you've hit your 5-year flight anniversary. Just wondering if you wanted to use your bonus leave for a trip? We've got cruise seats available to Santorini next month. My instinct was to say, maybe next year. That's what I always said. Leave time was usually sucked up by someone else's emergency. But I paused. Then said, yeah. Book it. Not for Amy. Not for the kids. Not even for some big dramatic life change. Just because I wanted to go. I sent Amy a text later. I'm taking a trip next month. Don't ask where. Don't ask to stay at my place. Just be happy for me. She wrote back. Promise. Be safe, Captain. I stared at that word. Captain? It wasn't a jab. It wasn't sarcastic. Just respect. Something I hadn't felt from my family in a very, very long time. I boarded that plane to Santorini alone, smiling. No guilt, no drama. Just peace at cruising altitude. For once, the only person I was flying for was me.